Some people say it's an arrogant thing to say, but you reach a stage in your life when it's as satisfying to give away to charity than to make more money. Michael Wainwright's my name, chairman of Boodles, a sixth-generation family business based in Liverpool. Bond Street's the Mecca, arguably the Mecca of jewellery in the world, certainly one of them.
How do you balance tradition with innovation?
I think we've been quick to innovate, but we made two key moves in the 1990s, and the first was employing our own designer. We were selling things that other people didn't have. Now, it's only good if the designs are good. It's much copied, which is irritating, but also a recognition that it is a great design. Some people think design's more important, others think brand is. I think they're both absolutely crucial. There's one thing that's more important than both of them, and that's the people who the business in 1984, have run it really with my brother Nicholas, or Nick as I know him, for very many years. But on March the 1st this year, I'm 66, handed over to my two nephews. One is Nicholas's son and the other is my sister Sarah's son. So they are now running the business. I'm chairman. My brother Nicholas has gone to president. He's 9 years older than me. And I've got boy-girl twins in the business now. So it's nice for me to be spending the twilight of my career trying to induct my children at the same time as adding value to the business.
Okay. So firstly, tell me a little bit about your father and how he changed what now is Boodles.
My dad was a very good businessman. He took over the business in summer of 1945. He had been in Burma for 4 years in the war, and his father and grandfather died within about 3 weeks of each other. The war was about to finish, and he was called back a few weeks early to take over the reins of the business. I mean, bear in mind, he hadn't seen his father and grandfather for 4 years either. He'd been in Burma the whole time. So he took over the business. It was one shop in Liverpool, where it is now, on the corner of Lord Street and North John Street. He extended it in the 1960s. He was a very good businessman, my father. He actually wanted to open in London in 1976, but he was prevented from doing so by my mother. Because he had one or two health issues, and in fact it was quite a wise thing that he didn't open, because he went on to have a stroke about a year later than that, which really tarnished the last 14 or 15 years of his life. I mean, bear in mind, he lived in Burma for 4 years. People didn't know about smoke. He smoked 40 cigarettes a day, liked a glass of pink gin. So he'd lived life, and it slightly caught up with him. But I mean, I think it was mainly the penalty for living in terrible conditions in Burma, to be honest with you. But he's a very dynamic businessman, very commercial, very good with people. I think he was firm, as people were in those days, but I think that his staff really liked him. And he opened a shop in Chester in 1965, next door to the Grosvenor Hotel, which has worked out to be an extremely good move. Chester then, and really until the advent of online, was one of the most desirable shopping cities in the whole of London. Desirable cities in the whole of the country. That shop actually opened in 65, and he relocated it slightly to where it is now, and it's got a wonderful position next to the Grosvenor Hotel. He then, with Nicholas, my brother, joined the business in 1967. He's now 76. He has probably been working in the same business for longer than almost anyone in the country, I should think. He's coming up, I think he's done 59 years in the same business. He was really more responsible than my dad for opening in Manchester, which we did in 1982. My father, I joined the business in 84, and to be honest with you, my dad at that point was probably coming in 3 days a week, always around lunchtime. He liked his lunch. He was a member of 2 lunch clubs in Liverpool. One was on a boat, actually, down on the docks. He enjoyed his lunch. And he'd come in at probably 11 o'clock for a couple of hours, have lunch, pop back to sign a couple of letters. That was that. Get back to watch blockbusters on the telly. But I've just been on holiday with my wife and children and their partners, and I just bring sayings of my father up the whole time. He's been hugely influential on my life, and everyone says I'm very similar to him. And I'm just sorry he didn't meet my son Geordie, because they are very similar as well.
Right. What would you say your earliest memory is of Boodles?
Well, sad to say, I remember going in with my dad when I was probably about 7 years old on the ferry from Woodside, because we'd had a robbery on a Saturday night, and we went in on a Sunday. I went in on a Sunday morning with him, and I remember that vividly. Obviously, security is the bane of our business. We've had to spend a lot of money on it over the years, but things happen. So I remember that. And then in my what's called gap year, I spent 6 months in 1970, summer 75, until Christmas. For about 5 months, I worked in Liverpool shop and loved it. And I went on to do other things. I went to university. I went to Exeter University, and then I did chartered accountancy. So I'm actually a chartered accountant.
Right.
So I joined what is now KPMG, Peat Marwick Mitchell, in London in 1979 after I left Exeter. Got those wretched exams eventually. I failed them all. Failed them all once. I'd be out now. They don't let you fail them. But it was a more sympathetic environment then.
Yeah.
Became qualified as an accountant. And I had not lived in the Northwest for about 7 years or so, and had a lot of friends down here from Exeter and working in London. But moved back to Chester, lived in Chester, overlooking the racecourse. I love horse racing. We're very involved in horse racing as a business. It's one of my passions. That was just a coincidence that it was overlooking the racecourse. And I was based in Liverpool for 4 years. Played a lot of football up there. Member of the Liverpool Ramblers Football Club, if you know that, in Crosby. Yeah. But very happy memories of those 4 years. But then we opened in London in 1987, and which was a huge move for us. We were very dependent to begin with on people from Northwest England, and we had 1 or 2 events in London before we opened, and there'd all be people who were brought up in Lancashire or Cheshire or the Wirral, who knew us from the Northwest. That's a whole different story, the whole sort of London evolution.
So as Boodle remains a family-run business, how do you balance tradition but with innovation?
That's a very good question. I think we've been quick to innovate. I mean, the one main thing we've changed is our name, because people in Liverpool will know us as Boodle and Dunthorne Limited. Yeah. And we changed the name in 2003. We sort of started reinventing ourselves as a business in about 1990. We were very nice. My father created and my brother maintained a very nice, what I'd call a family jewellers. We were good at it. There's a lot of them in towns and cities around Britain now. But we made 2 key moves in the 1990s to change our species, if you like. And the first was employing our own designer. So until 1990, we made up basic things like single stone diamond rings, diamond earrings, diamond pendants. We made those up ourselves. But anything with design in, we didn't have the capacity. We didn't have a designer. So we bought things in, nearly always from overseas, Swiss, German, a lot of German companies, some French. We used to go to a big exhibition in Basel every year in Switzerland. We'd buy in. So we appointed Rebecca Hawkins, her name is, and she's now she's still with us 34 years later. She joined us at the age of 26, I should think. She'd been working for a company in Birmingham, jewellery company, designing. She joined us in 1990. Our design department then evolved, and now we effectively have 7 people in design.
Okay.
Mainly in Liverpool still. 5 of them are in Liverpool, and 2 of them are in London. So the recruitment of Rebecca Hawkins and the supplementing of the department, the growing of the department, has enabled us probably by about the 2000, every piece of jewellery we sold was our own design and creation. So that gives us a unique selling point.
Yeah.
We were selling things that other people didn't have. Now, it's only good if the designs are good, and the designs have got better and better. Indeed, there's one thing she's designed which really is almost like a sub-brand. It's called Rain Dance.
Yeah.
And it's much copied, which is irritating, but also a recognition that it is a great design. And is actually the Rain Dance ring is in the Victoria and Albert Museum and has been for about 12 years as an amazing example of outstanding contemporary British design. So the design of the jewellery is the key. It is absolutely key. And we are very lucky that Rebecca is still with us and she's like a fine wine, I always say. She gets better with age. So that was the first thing. And I said there were 2 things. And the other is the creation of a brand, the Boodles brand. People didn't know what branding meant 35 years ago. At least I didn't. And I remember, I recount this story. We had a shop in Regent Street then, and I was based down here, and we'd had a pretty bad Christmas. And I remember looking at one of our carrier bags, and it was a rather muddy green colour, and it wasn't very nicely made. And I was just trying to find scapegoats for our bag Christmas. And at exactly the same time, I received a letter, not an email because there weren't any emails, a letter from something called a branding company, which I didn't know what they were. I read this, and I agreed to meet up with them. And I think the relationship that we had with this company, which started in 1996 and went on till 2012, it went on for 16 years, really taught us everything I know about branding. They held our hand during the growth, that formative stage of growing what was then the Boodle and Dunthorne and became the Boodles brand.
Yeah.
And to this day, I still think the brand and the design are as important as each other.
Of course.
And I think as an MD of the business, I've recognised that. I mean, some people think design's more important, others think brand is. I think they're both absolutely crucial. I really do. There's one thing that's more important than both of them, and that's the people who work in the business.
It's interesting, actually, because all the interviews I've done recently, that's what everybody says. Your people are your most important.
Most important. Well, if you've got it in the service industry, it is only people. We've got a product, but I still think the people are most important.
Given the tradition and obviously 6th generation, did you say?
Yeah.
How have you found working with family?
Are they going to be watching this?
You can edit it.
I've been very lucky. And I think my brother would say the same. I mean, my working life has been principally with him. Yes, my nephews have been in it for, actually, probably for 20 years now. But they've been in more junior roles. And it's really only the last 4 or 5 months when they're now running it. And things have changed at a rate of knots. Yeah. And that's a good thing. I want them to run it. I think they deserve to run it. I'm here as chairman and they can ask me for advice and I'll give the advice. But they've got to make the decisions themselves. But my brother Nick and I have got on extremely well. I'd say we're very different. It's probably been helped by the fact that we've worked 200 miles apart from each other because he's based in Liverpool, lives in the Wirral. I moved in 1987 and I've never moved back there. I moved down here for 2 years, but I've never moved back. I married a Londoner. So I think if I went back, I might be going on my own, actually. I wouldn't mind going back. I mean, I'm so sort of envious of being close to the sea, Hoylake Golf Course, Liverpool Football Club. There's a lot about it. I've still got dear friends up there. Yeah. So there's a huge amount about it I miss. But, I've got a life down here I love as well. So we've got on very well. I think we've both recognised when the other feels strongly about something. And I don't think we've had one or two standoffs for a couple of days, but we've had virtually no arguments in that time. I always say it's like a marriage. If you want it to work, you've got to work at it, and it's worth it. Because a family business that is functional is a nice place to be. A family business that is dysfunctional is tricky.
Yeah.
So with regards to my nephews, I think they seem to enjoy working with me. The fact that they're not my sons might be a good thing. And my children are now, I had children quite late in life. So my children are 28, I'm 66. It's just great. They're both based here as it happens, partly because I selfishly want them to be. I think my son might go and get involved in one of our other shops in the not too distant future. But Honor, my daughter, is here. She runs our marketing, and the marketing HQ is in London. So a lot of our head office function is in Liverpool. Design, production, finance, HR, all based in Liverpool. Everything to do with marketing, digital. It's based down here. Okay. Yeah.
I had a talk with someone yesterday, and they were saying that it's very rare you'd see someone go out and do something on their own. So you said, you were lucky to have Nick, because it almost stops burnout. I think if you try and do something solely on your own, you can be burnt out. So it's good that you've had that other person to...
So right. I mean, we spoke on the phone. I mean, this was before email. But even with email, we used to speak on the phone twice a day for 30 years, I should think. I mean, I'd be up in Liverpool for a day a week on average, and he'd be down here for a day. So, but when we weren't physically seeing each other, we shared every decision. I mean, his remit was far more product, jewellery focused, sourcing the stones, being in charge of design. He's still in charge of design today. That's one thing. He's sort of very much involved there still. But he would still involve me in it, whereas I was much more involved in the brand side. Yeah. But he would still sit in on meetings with our branding consultants. So we ran the business. Probably the division was a bit muddied and a bit blurred. If we'd had our time again, it probably should have been a bit more defined. My two nephews, their remits are far more defined. In fact, they couldn't be more different from each other. One is very commercial and product focused, and the other is very marketing, storytelling focused. But I'm really pleased to say that since they took over together, they are really communicating well. That was one of my concerns, because they are so different. Yeah. I wasn't sure if they were going to get into each other's worlds. No, I've been very lucky, and I hope my brother would say the same. I'll give you an example. As I said earlier, I'm very keen on horse racing. About 4 years ago, we had the chance to sponsor the Cheltenham Gold Cup. And the chairman of Cheltenham phoned me up. He knows me, he's a friend. And he said, Mike, look, Magners, who were sponsoring the Gold Cup, have reneged on the deal. They pulled out. This was in January. They needed a sponsor for March. And will you sponsor it? The price is going to be this. And I knew the price was quite good, because I'm actually also involved at Cheltenham. So I was a bit conflicted as well. This was 11 o'clock, this phone call. I phoned Nick, my brother, say, look, we've got a chance to sponsor the Gold Cup. And he said, well, you love racing. We had a reasonable Christmas. Let's do it. So I phoned him up, phoned Martin, the chairman, up and said, right, we're on. I mean, my brother, it wouldn't have been his first choice, but he knew it would have been mine. So I think there's been a huge element of respect for our respective qualities, if you like, and wishes. Mm.
If you could open a showroom anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Now, we've got 5 in London. We've got Liverpool, Chester, Manchester. We've got 5 in London. We've got Leeds, which we opened nearly 3 years ago. We've got a shop in Dublin. We've always shied away from opening abroad. I am going to answer your question. We've always shied away from opening abroad. We've looked in Dubai. We've looked in New York. We had a small concession in Hong Kong, in Lane Crawford, which is a bit like Harrods in Hong Kong. Well, at least we thought it was like Harrods, but it didn't work out. So we've sort of received advice and thought we won't open overseas, but we are now on a journey of having events overseas. We had a big event in Quinta del Lago this summer. I'll come back to that. We're having a big event in New York in October, in next month. We are having an event in Monaco next summer. We're going to Doha, the Doha Jewellery Show, next year. We're also tagging on Marbella to Quinta next year. So we're going to do about 5 or 6 things overseas. I don't think we should open up any more shops in the UK. There's a possible option in Scotland. I would think if we open up any more shops in the UK, we dilute the brand too much, I think. And then the sort of uber luxury brand we've tried to create gets less than uber luxury. It becomes too available. So I don't think UK, and I'm not sure I even think overseas at the moment, but we will know a lot more in a year or two's time. If you held a gun to my head, we've had 2 incredibly successful shows in Quinta del Lago. And the great thing about Quinta del Lago, for anyone who knows it, it's not like Monaco. It's not like Marbella. It's not like the south of France. There are no other jewellery shops there. And there's a lot of people who spend a lot of time there now who are our sort of customer, own houses, and they don't just go there for 2 or 3 weeks. A lot of them half live there. And we've had 2 very successful shows there, and we have got a possibility to open something there, which would be near the top of my list. But failing that, the USA. Easily our best overseas market is the USA. And we've got this event in New York going on over 48 hours, and we're flying people in. We're flying about 15 couples in from around the States. They're coming from all over the place, California, some from Canada, Vancouver, Florida, Texas. I think one couple are coming from Bermuda. And we're having a sort of jamboree, 48 hours. Obviously, there's going to be jewellery there for them to look at. And they're going to go to the diamond offices of William Goldberg, who cut the Ashoka diamond. And we are famed for being one of the few jewellers in the world who have this amazing cut of diamond. Don't know the Americans so well.
Right.
We know they've wandered into our Savoy branch, which is very good for Americans, or Harrods, or Dublin. Those are our 3 best shops for Americans.
Right.
Dublin, a lot of Americans go to Dublin, Harrods and Savoy particularly.
I think you may have answered this already. What would you say has been your highlight since being at Boodles?
I'd say our first sponsorship of the Cheltenham Gold Cup. I arrived on that Friday morning. It was 4 years ago. I remember my father used to sponsor a race at Bangor-on-Dee in North Wales, where I've got very happy memories. If my dad was my dad's one of his great mottos was "Think big," and I turned up. I go to the whole week at Cheltenham every year, 4 days. So I turned up on this Friday morning, and it was a sea of pink against the green, and I just thought, my God, if my dad could see this now, he would be quite proud of what we've done. I think from a commercial point of view and looking back on it, it has actually been quite a successful move. I won't bore you with why, but it's elevated our brand, in my opinion. So that, and also I'd say, a big watershed moment for me was opening in London, because London has been my baby. So opening in London in 1987, but more opening this shop where we are now in Bond Street in 2006, because Bond Street's the Mecca, arguably the Mecca of jewellery in the world, certainly one of them. I would say those have been very memorable moments for me.
Just like to touch on, obviously, sustainability has become more important, especially in luxury jewellery.
Yeah.
How have you found Boodles has adapted to that?
Well, we've just appointed someone full-time in the role. I'd say both my nephews have got, I'd like to think they got onto the subject earlier than most people. All of our gold we use now comes from one mine, a single mine, Origin Gold. We've built up, this is due to Jody, one of my nephews, we've built up an incredibly good relationship with the Cullinan diamond mine in the last 6 or 7 years. And the Cullinan diamond mine is important for the Cullinan diamond, which is the biggest diamond ever mined. We now have a relationship with a mine in Canada called the Diavik mine. And we have just bought a lot of stones from the Diavik mine. And we're making up a whole range of jewellery with diamonds from the Diavik mine. And actually, it's particularly relevant, I'd say, for engagement rings, because younger audience ask the question more than older audience. So in engagement rings, we're going to be using a lot of these Diavik stones. So the gold we know is from a single mine. And diamonds, we're working harder and harder to identify the source of them, because people do want to know. But everything we do, the way we run our business, the paper we use in our brochures, the paper we use in our bags, it is all now recyclable, sustainable. We cannot afford not to be. And I was speaking to a friend of mine, an old university friend who's got a very high job. He's actually chairman of Lloyd's Bank now. And I met him last year, and he said the biggest thing for you over the next 5 years is going to be your sustainability credentials. And he's my age as well. So if he's saying that, and I think he's right. So we've appointed a delightful young person as head of sustainability. There's a lot about it on our website. So I think we're ahead of the curve.
Yeah,
we're members of the RJC, the Responsible Jewellery Council, as well. So. Yeah, not my special subject, but I know people whose special subject it is.
Just moving on to the charitable element. I know Boodles are renowned for supporting charities. Tell me a little bit about your charity.
Well, we've got our own charitable trust now, which we set up about 12 years ago. And to be honest with you, until about 4 years ago, it didn't have much money in it. It's got a bit more money in it now. And we like to put, when we have a decent year, and post-COVID business has been quite good in our sector, and it's got quite a decent amount in it now. And we had a charity of the year who we kept for 5 years called Street Child, who the bit we were sponsoring was in Sierra Leone, which I think is one of the bottom 2 poorest countries in the world. And we gave money to set women so they could bring money into the family to buy school uniforms to get education for their children. The reason we selected Sierra Leone is because it's a diamond mining country, and the area we helped was very close to the diamond mining. We've now we've supported them for a long time, and we've switched this year to a charity called Just a Drop. Now, Just a Drop, as the name would suggest, is a charity that brings water to areas of population where there is no water or no dependency on water. And we're working on a couple of projects to build dams in Kenya. And it makes such a huge difference to people's lives. And I mean, the impact on their health, a lot of them might be pregnant, the impact on their health is dreadful. I haven't been there. I want to go there. My daughter is going next weekend with my brother Nicholas, who's doing a tour of Africa, actually, making another film, a Boodles film. So we're really pleased to be helping this charity. It's our first year with them. And so we wanted to help a charity in Africa, because Africa is the continent from which most, not all, but a lot of the raw materials we're using come from. A lot of the diamonds, as people know, all the gold, and quite a lot of the coloured stones now. So we wanted it to be African based. We do other things. We've got the 4 directors. My daughter Honor is now a director, actually, but the 4 original directors also have their own charities of choice. Mine happens to be a charity that I've been a trustee of for many years, called Rainbow Trust Children's Charity, that looks after families of the whole family where there is a terminally ill child, and we might look after them for months, years, or many years. I've been a trustee of that for a very long time, until recently I've now stood down. So each of the directors pick their own charity. Then each of our shops have a charity of the year. It must be a local charity, and we let them choose entirely. And there's a huge difference. So we've got 11 shops, and we've split our non-sales staff into about 6 or 7 departments as well. So we've got about 18 charities that we're allocating. I won't give you numbers, but we're giving quite a lot of money now. And I mean, some people say it's an arrogant thing to say, but you reach a stage in your life when it's as satisfying to give away to charity than to make more money.
Yeah.
That sounds a bit arrogant, but I hope people
No.
understand what I'm saying.
Of course. So, 2 questions. What is next for you? And what's next for Boodles?
First thing I want to get sorted out is my chipping, golf chipping. It's a disaster. I can actually hit quite a decent golf ball, but my card is constantly destroyed. So no, I'm being serious. No, I want to carry on in the business, but I don't want to carry on with my foot flat on the floorboards. I've sort of cut down to say 4 days a week. We do a huge amount of entertaining. So I will answer your question. We do a huge amount of entertaining. A lot of that's in the evenings. If I look at my diary now, between now and Christmas, even though I'm not MD anymore, I'm chairman, I've probably got 18 evenings scheduled in, which is at least one a week between now and Christmas. It's either going out with clients just for dinner or a full-scale event with 150 people at it. A lot of work, evening stuff. I've got a wife. I've got quite a lot else going on in my life. I'm involved at Cheltenham Racecourse. I'm chairman of something called the Goldsmith Centre. Not so involved in Rainbow Trust anymore, but they're quite time-consuming things. So I've got other stuff going on, and I want to cut back a bit on the evenings, but I want to remain relevant in the business as chairman. And to be relevant, I don't think you can go missing in action. You've got to get around and talk to people. So that's what I plan to do. I'm not going to dictate what should be done. If I see something that I think should be done, I'll suggest it to my nephews. At least that's the intention. But I still want to remain very involved. I want to induct my own children, as I said earlier, because I enjoy doing that, and they seem to enjoy listening to what I've got to say. I mean, this afternoon my daughter's got our annual marketing budget, which I could easily not have gone to. Marketing meeting. And I'm going along with that. I'll really enjoy it. There's about 12 people on it, I should think, and we're having a dinner afterwards. I want to support her, and B, it's nice to remain in touch with the rest of the staff. It's a good way of doing it. So I want to remain very in touch for the foreseeable future, possibly when I'm 70, taper down a bit more. So I'd like to do 3.5 days, 4 days a week, and less evenings, but remain involved. And with regards to other interests, I've got, I'm a keen golfer, as I alluded to earlier, not a particularly brilliant one, but there's so much opportunity to play some great golf courses. I'm a member of a few, and I don't hardly get to them. Horse racing, I'm an avid horse racer, so I want to do, I want to go to every race course in Great Britain. That's an ambition. I follow Liverpool Football Club, which will be music to some, hopefully the majority of these listeners, but there might be a blue minority who don't want to hear that.
Yeah.
My son's very avid Red as well. We go to a few games at Anfield a year. We'll generally get tickets 3 or 4 times when Liverpool are playing in the London area as well. I'm a very keen vegetable gardener.
Oh.
I love being on my own in the vegetable garden. Just extended this vegetable garden. My son said it looks like a small farm now. So. And then both my wife and I are very keen walkers. So we've just got a cockapoo, and cockapoos just have puppies, and we're keeping one of those apparently. So. Yeah, I mean, I've got plenty of stuff going on, and we've got a house out in we live on the Stratfield Say estate, which is better known for the Duke of Wellington living there than for me. But I mean, I don't spend enough time there, and haven't spent enough time there in the last 15, 20 years. So just want to spend more time there really as well.
So you've got a lot on.
I've got quite a few interests.
Yeah, you can see why you can't focus on your chipping.
Yeah, exactly. You're a golfer, are you?
Yeah. Not great, but
yeah.
Won't take up much more of your time. I'd like to end on, if you could...
Can't believe the time.
Yeah, it's flown, hasn't it? If you could sum up Boodles in 3 words, what would you say?
Family, fun, integrity.
Brilliant.
I'd say.
That's excellent. Listen, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Really
Can't believe
enjoyed
the time.
Yeah,
Very good.
brilliant. Thank you.
Okay.